Are you ready to finally break free from overwhelm, procrastination, and burnout? If you're ready to focus on what truly matters and create momentum to reach and exceed your goals in business and in life, then this podcast is for you. Welcome to the Efficiency Advantage, the podcast where clarity meets action and purpose that fuels your progress. So here's world-class productivity expert and your host, Coach Juli.
Welcome back to the Efficiency Advantage. I'm Juli Shulem, productivity coach and industrial organizational psychologist. And today I want to talk about something that has quietly become one of the biggest productivity drains in our professional lives. It's not procrastination, nor is it poor planning, not even distractions. I'm talking about accessibility. We've created a workplace culture where being immediately available has become synonymous with being productive. An email comes in, we answer it. A Slack notification pops up, we respond. A text arrives, we check it. A team message appears, we stop doing what we're doing because somehow we've come to believe that responsiveness is professionalism. But what if we've confused being accessible with being effective? Today, I want to introduce a concept I call responsiveness management, because here's what I've noticed after coaching professionals for more than 2 decades. People manage their calendars and their tasks lists. Some even manage their energy, but almost nobody manages their accessibility. And I believe that has become one of the biggest hidden productivity leaks in modern work. There seems to be this new productivity currency. Years ago, our work was measured largely by output. Today, sometimes it feels like we're being measured by how quickly we reply. Have you ever noticed how someone apologizes because of how long it took them to respond? Sorry, I just saw this. It had been, 23 minutes? We've normalized immediate responses so much that people feel guilty for taking half an hour to answer an email. Some people even answer emails while sitting in meetings, not because the email is urgent, because we've trained ourselves to respond to the notification instead of asking whether it deserves our attention right now. Responsiveness has become performative, almost like saying, see, I'm engaged, I'm working, I'm available. But availability isn't output. Availability isn't strategic thinking, and availability isn't leadership. Allow me to introduce a framework. Here's the distinction I'd like you to consider. Your calendar manages your time, and your task list manages your commitments. Responsiveness management protects your attention. I think that's become the missing system, because every quick response isn't just that 30 seconds it takes to type. It's also the mental doorway you just walked through. Now your brain has shifted into another conversation, another problem, another person's priorities. And before long, your day is no longer yours. It's simply a collection of everyone else's interruptions. I was working with a client, and I'm going to call him Mark for privacy purposes. And he struggled with this issue of being constantly available. And he had very poor work-life balance, or as I like to call it, life-work balance, because life is more important than work, people. And his family was suffering because of it. Both his wife and his kids complained that he was constantly connected to his work and distracted with his phone and then zoned out often. And he wanted to stop being available so often, but he didn't know how. He came to me and shared that he struggled to not be connected to his office and that he felt that he needed to be available all the time. And that was compounded by the fact that he is easily distracted. He wanted to feel good about his level of productivity without letting work bleed into every second of his life so that he could be more present at home. Now, this was not the first time I've heard this complaint by a client. It's pretty prevalent. Many come to me with this problem of feeling tethered to their devices and the fear that if they don't respond instantly, that their job hangs in the balance. Turns out that has never been the case with anyone I have worked with. What fascinated me wasn't that he had too much work. He didn't. He was quite good, actually, at prioritizing his projects and tasks. But every time he got an email, a call, a message, fill in the blank for yourself here, it would break his concentration. And then getting back to the task at hand took so much time, too much time. And then he was unable to deliver on the task because he was fielding all these communications. He also worked in a different time zone than many of his colleagues, which is the situation many I speak with are in. There is always a way around this. You have to think outside the box a bit and have the right conversations with the right people before the problem gets out of control. For Mark, we started by creating the no phone zone times, starting with the 3 hours when his family had dinner and he got the kids ready for bed with his wife. No interruptions, because he was really clear that that time with his family was more important than any call or communication that would possibly come in. Next, he scheduled a short 30-minute window after the kids were asleep to check his phone for anything that he needed to be on top of the next day, and he put it on his list for the next day so he didn't have to think about it right now in the moment. Then he spent time with his wife and he went to bed at a reasonable time when his phone was charging elsewhere until the morning. Next, he set boundaries with colleagues. He told them the hours he cannot respond because that was family time. In addition, he contacted the handful of individuals who tended to contact him most often and asked them to let him know the urgency of the message or the priority of the request so he could plan for it versus dropping what he was in the middle of doing and then jumping on whatever was being communicated. So this prevented him from putting time towards something not actually urgent so he could stay engaged in the task he was actually working on. Despite feeling a little discomfort at the beginning by not responding immediately as he was doing prior, he got used to it and he found that no one was at all bothered by his requests for having these times allocated where he's not going to be expected to respond. In addition, since he is exclusively responsible for several projects, he was able to improve his deliverable times and everything was easier all the way around. Bottom line, initially, he had too much accessibility. This kept him from doing the work due to all the communication streams. Reducing his accessibility and changing his mindset around that improved multiple areas of his life and allowed him to put time toward the real priorities. Now, this becomes even more important if you're a leader, because leaders unintentionally teach responsiveness norms. If you answer emails at 10:45 every night, people notice. And if you respond to every Teams message within 2 minutes, people assume that's the expectation. Culture isn't only built through policies, it's built through patterns. People don't usually follow what leaders say, they kind of follow what leaders repeatedly do. When leaders constantly interrupt themselves, organizations begin to normalize interruption. I had another client whose boss would regularly send emails late at night, and the client assumed he was expected to respond at that hour as well. Keep in mind that many times someone who does that is most often trying to check something off of their own list. That doesn't mean it is urgent for you. It's just no longer something that they have to concern themselves with. Here's a kinder thing to do if you are that late night email sending person. Schedule the email to arrive to the person first thing in the morning. Consider the reputation you are creating. Do you really want to be known as the person who's working at all hours of the night? I actually have a rule about emailing and responding to business-related messages over weekends and anytime after 6:30 in the evenings on all the other days. I am very aware of the precedent that sets when you don't have those boundaries because years ago, I didn't have any. Another protocol to implement that works great is telling people when you will respond versus telling them when you will not respond is a little more positive. And also, people tend to remember what they hear, so be careful how you say it. That way, there will be understanding if they don't hear from you during one of those regular message control times, as I'm calling them now. So instead of asking how quickly should I answer, try asking when is the best time to give this my full attention. That's a completely different question. Or ask, does this require an immediate response? Or simply a timely one? Those aren't the same thing. Very little in knowledge work is actually urgent. It's simply visible. So here are a few ideas you can begin experimenting with this week. First, schedule that message control time or those response windows. Instead of checking messages continuously, decide when you will check them. Maybe 3 times a day, maybe once every hour, whatever fits your work and your role. Just make it intentional. Second, tell people. One sentence changes everything. I've seen this happen so many times. Trust me on this one. Just say something like, I check email 3 times daily so I can stay focused on the work at hand. Notice, you're not apologizing. You're explaining how you produce your best work. And third, separate communication from concentration. Communication is work. Deep thinking is also work, but they require completely different kinds of attention. Don't force them to compete simultaneously. Fourth, protect your best thinking hours. If your brain is sharpest between 8 and 11 a.m., don't spend that time clearing email. That's premium cognitive opportunity. Use it for the work only you can do. Email can wait. Your best thinking shouldn't. Here's what I'd love you to remember. The goal isn't becoming less responsive. It's becoming intentionally responsive. Because responsiveness without intention becomes reactivity. And reactivity slowly erodes our ability to think deeply, to solve problems creatively, to make quality decisions, and to move meaningful work forward. So in closing, I'd like to leave you with one thought. We spend a tremendous amount of time protecting our calendars, blocking time, scheduling meetings, prioritizing projects. Maybe it's time we became just as protective of something even more valuable, our attention. Because attention is where productivity actually begins. Not your calendar, not your inbox, not your notifications, your attention. So this week, I'd encourage you to ask yourself one simple question. Who is managing my accessibility? If the answer is everyone else, it may be time to take it back. Thanks for spending this time with me today. And if you found today's episode helpful, I'd love it if you'd share it with a colleague or a leader who might need permission to stop confusing constant availability with meaningful productivity. Until next time, remember, productivity isn't about getting more done. It's about getting the right things done in the right way so you can do your best work and still have a life left to enjoy. Thank you for being here. Subscribe if you haven't done so already. And until next week, have a productive day.
So that's it for today's episode of The Efficiency Advantage. Head on over to Apple Podcasts, iTunes, or wherever you listen and subscribe to the show. One lucky listener every single week that posts a review on Apple Podcasts or iTunes will win a chance in the grand prize drawing to win a private VIP day with Coach Juli herself. Be sure to head on over to theefficiencyadvantage.com and pick up a free copy of Coach Juli's gift and join us on the next episode.